Welcome to Argyle TV. Argyle's survival chances are almost down and out. Good Friday's loss at Middlesbrough was a cruel blow and it leaves them adrift at the bottom of the table again. But in the spirit of Easter, they do have a chance to resurrect the season once again against Coventry City this Easter Monday. Technically, nothing can happen today, but Argyle will know that a defeat here and a win for either Derby County or Luton Town would mean all but relegation. And similarly, Coventry could theoretically secure a playoff place if they beat Argyle and Middlesbrough slip to defeat. It's the time of the season when things are decided. It's tense, it's nervy, but as always, it is Argyle, so we're very much used to it by now. Another hugely important game coming your way then, and you can follow it all here with us on Argyle TV. Hello, good afternoon. I am Erin Black and welcome to Matchday Live on a lovely sunny Easter Monday for you. Well, here we go again today, just a couple of days after that cruel defeat we saw up at Middlesbrough in North Yorkshire. Argyle are back at home and they're hoping they can put things right and do things all over again here at Home Park. A little bit of magic to keep them fighting for their survival. In their way are a Coventry City side doing very well under the tutelage of none other than Frank Lampard. The former England man has them on the cusp of the playoffs right now. Massive implications at either end of the table, whichever way you look at it. Match passes to watch and listen to all of the action as we progress throughout the afternoon are available. I don't think you'll want to miss it, much like you haven't wanted to miss much of the season because so much has been going on. Head over to pafc.co.uk to make sure you secure them now before kick-off very shortly. And joining me to tee everything up before we get into the football itself, none other than former Argyle ladies captain Katie Middleton. Happy Easter.
Thank you, you too.
We've got to hope it is a happy Easter because, like we've said, technically nothing can happen today, but really we all know fate probably will be decided depending on how things go.
Yeah, it's obviously very much dependent on how other results go today. We've got to give ourselves a fighting chance going into that last couple of games of the season by getting a result here today. Everyone knows what's at stake. The boys know what's at stake, and it's about getting out there on the pitch today and giving it their all and seeing what we can get at the end of 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think the Sheffield United game worked out quite nicely for us in the sense that we won that and the teams around us ended up either only gaining 1 point or no points. And it's very rare that actually happens where everything works out in our favour. So again, it is asking a lot of questions and a big demand on a variety of different teams for it to go all of our way again today.
Yeah, I mean, you look at results going for us in the last couple of weeks, which have been great and given us the opportunity to, I guess, still be in the fight going into these last three games of the season. But they've got to forget everyone else today. It's just about getting out there and trying to, what they can have in their hands, trying to go in and make sure they do a job today and, do what they're in control of, which can be difficult when you're so reliant on other things that are going on around you.
Yeah, I think it's nicer to be back at home park in a situation like that, because we have seen the last couple of games go Argyle's way here. It's the place where naturally they feel most at home. They're in front of all of their fans here, and they will be wanting to put on a performance. They need to put on a performance.
They certainly do need to put on a performance, but these are the games against these sort of mid-table-ish sides. Obviously Coventry are in the playoff places at the moment, but you don't necessarily expect us to go and win these games, and somehow we managed to. You look at the Norwich game, you look at the Sheffield United game, the last couple of games here at home park, people probably didn't really give us a chance of winning either of them, and yet we go and put in a performance and pick up wins in those games. So this might be another one of those games where is the pressure off a little bit? Probably. We know inevitably where we're going to end up and what's going to happen, but that's generally when we go and perform a bit better, and hopefully we can treat this crowd to a few goals today and win the 3 points at the end of it.
Yeah, we definitely need to win those 3 points. I think now is probably a very good time to have a look at the team that has been chosen to try and secure that. Your starting lineup for this afternoon. 2 changes for Argyle. It looks a bit like this. Connor Hazard, Bali Mumba, Julio Pleguezuelo, Cornel Suge, Ryan Hardy, Mustafa Bundu, Darko JB, Adam Randall, Nikola Katic, Mohamed Tijani and Victor Paulsen. And on the bench, Grimshaw, Ogbeta, Wright, Puach, Boateng, Al-Haj, Baidu, Roberts and Isaka. 3-4-2-1 for you, Katie. Like we said, 2 changes. No Joe Edwards. We did see him start on Friday, which I think everybody wanted to see, was looking forward to seeing. And it is so unfortunate that we are now without him after that red card right at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was a really harsh decision. I think 1 to give the penalty, 2 for him to receive a red card. So, unfortunate for Joe. It's a 1-game ban, and he'll obviously miss today, but he'll be back for the last 2 games of the season. So, he's a big player, and I think he's just got that little bit of experience and that little bit of sort of drive on the pitch that sort of, the other players can feed off as much as they can. And, obviously disappointing that he's not there at all today.
Yep.
But the other players have got to step up and show what they're all about.
Mm-hmm. Nikola Katic back in, formidable presence at the back. He's a big guy. And do you feel Argyle have missed him in the last couple of games? Because, I think they have worked well around the injuries that they've had.
I think you've got to give the other lads credit. Victor Paulsen took a fair amount of flack at the beginning of the season for performances that he put in, but I think he's come in and done a really good job. Obviously Suge's come back in and been really steady. Pleggy's had a good run of games, good run of performances. So yes, you're going to miss somebody like Katic, but I think, like I say, you've got to give credit to the other lads that have stepped up in recent games, and the upturn in, I guess, performances has been there without Katic. So he'll be a big player for us today. I think Coventry are a team that like to get the ball wide and get crosses into the box, and Katic will be there to hopefully head everything away.
What about Tijani? We're seeing him start today for the first time since the beginning of the season. He has been brought on in recent weeks and has been the game changer in one of those instances. What do you think the decision-making process is behind having him on to start for the first time in a very long time?
I think they've got some relatively, I guess, big guys at the back, Coventry. So I guess it allows you, if you're playing another big guy alongside Bundu, to kind of put a bit of pressure on higher up the pitch. He can be used as a bit of a target man if you need to. Whether we'll see him play as the 9 and then Bundu will drop in a little bit deeper and play as the 10, which is probably likely to happen. He needs to be a presence there, and he's got a really important job in terms of, if we're going to play long, he needs to be able to hold the ball up to allow the likes of Bundu and Hardy to get with him, and then off the back of that we can start to create opportunities. So it's a good opportunity for Tijani today, like you say, coming in for his first start since the first game of the season. So, we need to see another big performance and hopefully another goal like we saw here in the last game.
Yeah, we saw how much that goal meant to him then. It would be lovely to see him get another one. like you said, Bundu and Hardy probably also in the mix as to be the ones to watch today. They've been on a lot better form recently, so you'd like to think they may be able to continue that at home where it matters most.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Hardy scored 7 in his last 6 here at Home Park, so, you know, it's a crazy start really for someone who probably lacked a lot of confidence earlier in the season. So the fact that he is where he is now, he'll be wanting to get to that magic double figures for the season, so hopefully we can see that today.
Yeah. Well, Coventry stand in their way this afternoon. They've got their hands on the final spot of the playoff for now. 2-0 win against West Brom on Friday. And this is the side that Frank Lampard has chosen. Bradley Collins, Jack Rodoni, Matt Grimes, Tatsuhiro Sakamoto, Jamie Allen, Ellis Sims, Haji Wright, Liam Kitching, Jake Bidwell, Joel Latabodiere and Milan van Ewijk. And on their bench, Wilson, Binks, De Silva, Patterson, Sheaf, Thomas Asante, Eccles, Burrows and more. They are doing a 4-3-2-1 today, Katie. 2 changes for them as well. Like you said, some big guys at the back.
Yeah, and I think, they've got an expansive front line who can score goals. They've got a lot of quality in those areas. I think, Matt Grimes is a really big player for them. He was brought in from Swansea, and as he did there, he very much dictates the tempo of play. And I think if we want to get something out of today, it's about trying to get that pressure on him nice and early, stopping him from playing, and as I say, being able to dictate the tempo of the game.
Former Exeter man as well, which always brings a nice added little dynamic to the mix. 2 goals in his last 2 games. We've also got, let's just double check, he is in there, Liam Kitching making his 250th senior appearance this afternoon as well. So just a testament, an example of his tenure here.
Yeah, and I think, all of these teams have got that experience at this level, and Coventry are a seasoned championship side, so they're going to have players that know how to play, know how to win games, and those kinds of lads who are playing at centre half, who are regulars, I guess, in the sides, important players to get you across the line. We've seen that with our back line this season, how important it is that they play well, and that kind of dictates where you're at in terms of results. So yeah, fair play to him. Obviously, that longevity to play 250 games is impressive.
Yeah, if we look at Haji Wright as well, for example, 4 goals for him in his last 6 matches. That's a nice run of form as well. They've got quality up there. We know scored against Argyle last season as well. So, yeah, there's a lot to look at.
Yeah, Haji Wright is a good player. I think he's got 11 goals this season, and anyone who's getting into double figures in the Championship is not to be sniffed at. So, lots of quality. Him, Ellis Sims is another player who, like I say, has previously scored against us, is a danger. And Sakamoto, who plays off them wide, off the left-hand side, again, scored against us away earlier in the season. So they've got lots of quality, lots of players who can cause us problems. And it's about how compact Argyle can be today to try and prevent those players picking up the ball in space and running at us and creating opportunities for them.
It's when you get to this point of the season, we're of course concentrating on the mountain that Argyle need to climb at the minute, and then you look at the opposition we're coming up against. It's not just a case of where they are in the table in terms of having done well, but when you look at Coventry, their hands are currently on that last playoff space. They also have a lot to play for. There will be so much drive in them to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible going into the end of the season.
We obviously couldn't do Coventry a favour last week against Middlesbrough, who Coventry are sort of fighting for that last playoff place with. It gets to this time of the season, and there's plenty of teams who have got lots to play for still. Coventry are certainly one of those. They want to try and secure that last playoff place as quickly as they can. And if you look at our next couple of games as well, it's probably only Preston who aren't really playing for anything. We all know Leeds going into the last game of the season, what they're playing for. So, Coventry will certainly be a stern test today. Yeah,
it feels very much like, it's very much a game of 2 halves and a league of 2 halves at the minute. Half of them could go up, half of them could go down. And I guess depending on what happens over the next couple of hours, we're certainly a little bit surer. We just have to hope it's not Argyle. And it was heartbreak for Argyle on Friday night. difficult one for every fan, and head coach Miran Mucic was no different.
I think creating over an expected goals value of 2 away against Middlesbrough, creating 4 or 5 big goal scoring opportunity says a lot about our performance. Also big moments when we defended. I think we actually defended very well against a very strong opponent, super dangerous in between the lines, in the pockets, but I think we found there a good structure to keep them out. And in big moments, Connor was also there to save us. You need those saves and those moments, and consistently being a threat in a transition. So actually there's nothing to regret with our performance. And then you lose this point in minute 93 with a penalty. So you can imagine it's a big hit.
It is. Let me ask you about that whole situation as it all happened, because it actually came. We'd been on the break just before, and then they get through and have the incident. What did you make of it? Have you seen it again? I don't know how much you want to comment on that.
Not at all. It's done, and we lost the game with a penalty in minute 93. 60 seconds before we concede the penalty, we had a 2 versus 2. These are big moments. We have to take advantage out of them, and we let some big moments today without a reward. And then in the end, if you get the penalty then in minute 93, it feels really tough.
You've already mentioned Monday. It comes quite quickly, as we've discussed. As we're standing here, we don't know how Cardiff are going to get on this evening against Sheffield United, but we sit here with the table still quite compact. We probably do need at least a couple of wins, maybe all 3, but we are still alive, and that's what we've got to go into Monday thinking about. And I would imagine also thinking about recent home performances such as the win over Sheffield United, and having that belief on Monday.
For sure, and that's also the plan for us. We actually had a deserve today at this point. This could have a massive impact, but we can't change things anymore. The next opportunity for us is Monday, and we will give it all again.
It was a particularly cruel end to that match. You were saying earlier, I think probably a bit of a harsh decision. I think many of us will agree from having a look at that back.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame Joe Edwards. I think he's trying to make something happen and, make life difficult for the striker in that situation. Yeah, I mean, you look back and there's errors along the way. Barley probably could have cleared the ball better, and, ricochets and ends up at Conway's feet. And, I think it's the tiniest hand on his back. If it goes for you, you say yes, it's a penalty. When it goes against you, you say it's not. So it's one of those tricky ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it kind of sums up the last few months where you get so close, but unfortunately for Argyle, it's just not quite close enough.
Yeah, and I think you've got to, again, take your hats off to the players, because that away performance was, chalk and cheese to some of the performances we've seen earlier in the season. And, things have got so much better. We've just unfortunately sort of run out of time as the season's gone on. So, with so few games left, you can't afford to make those errors and for them, to go against you as much as they have done. But, like I say, I think you've got to give the lads credit for digging in and fighting and putting on a good performance against Middlesbrough. Yeah,
and I think even to come back within about 5 minutes as well, because when I, saw online that the goal had gone in within, I think it was like 12, 13 minutes, something like that, I thought, right, okay. But, for Argyle to be able to bounce back in quite a quick period of time and hold on to that draw until, inevitably the very end, it looked better. How do you think, Miran is going to be looking at coming into today to try and keep that hope alive when you keep getting bits here and there, not going your way?
I don't think he has to do much, to be honest. The players are well aware of what's at stake, and ultimately you've got 3 games left of the season. To give yourself a chance of staying up, you probably would need to win 9 points. So, you've got to go out there today and you've got to perform. And, even if things go against you, it's, can you work hard? Can you win your individual battles and try and get something out of the game, no matter how that happens? So, I don't think Miran's, got a difficult job today. I think the players can take that on themselves.
Yeah, well, hopefully they do. It's an interesting, tale of two halves, as we said. When you look at Coventry, they were 16th when Frank Lampard took over in November. Completely different story for them as to what's happened here, because they are now 6th with a 3-point cushion over Middlesbrough, and that is a very good place to be in for Frank Lampard.
And they're getting excited, the fans. You're still 6th, you're 3 points clear of 7th. Do you have to try and keep the players calm at the moment, or do you want them to be excited?
No, the players understand it. You know, it's excitement, but it's also focus, because we know how quickly things change in this league. We shot up the league through regular wins, so other teams in this little mini ending that we have now with a few games, there's still enough points that can change everything. So the players are calm. All we have to do is focus on the next one, which is obviously Plymouth now.
Who are fighting a bit. Cats were a bit unlucky today, so they're fighting.
Yeah. So I've seen the basics of the game, the stats I've just seen. So they've each Sheffield United at home in their last game. They've gone to Middlesbrough and maybe deserve something. So it's going to be a very, very tough match with the atmosphere down there. That they're fighting for every point. We felt a little bit of that at Derby a few weeks ago, and wasn't positive for us. So we understand what it is.
Well, of course, it's the same for everyone, but it's 2 games rather than in a few days. You emptied your bench today. Was that partly because of that, to sort of protect?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't feel the game was ever completely secure, because a counter-attack goal can always change, and when players are playing well and they're in the game, to bring people in at that point is not always easy. We have to deal with the game in front of us and try and make sure we see it out well. So I think Jamie coming on was great for Jamie, because he always comes on with a great intensity and he deserves to play. Jamie, it's a hard area of the pitch for me to make decisions, to be fair. But yeah, trying to save a few players, but we had to stay with it a bit today because West Brom were too dangerous to make subs that I felt were not necessarily needed in the game. Sometimes the team that are out there that are playing well, you stick with it. But yeah, we made a few to save a few legs.
Well, I think it's safe to say he's done a decent job with Coventry. He'll be certainly happy with where they're at the minute, but he won't be comfortable staying there. He'll want to keep pushing right till the very end.
Yeah, I mean, again, credit to him where credit's due. There's been question marks, I guess, over previous jobs. How good a manager is he? He's obviously been a very good player in the past, but doesn't always translate to management. So, yeah, you've got to give him credit. And he's taken them 10 places up the table. They went on a ridiculous run when he came in. 9-10 games unbeaten, and it's got them where they are at the moment. And he's been sort of willing to mix things up a bit, change formations when he's needed to. And he's got them playing some good football. So, yeah, like you say, they won't want to rest on their laurels and stay where they are now. We'll want them to push on as much as they can over the last couple of games of the season as well.
Do you think that flexibility and that willingness to be flexible has helped them, and how do you see that playing out today against Argyle?
Yeah, I guess when your players understand different systems, it makes life easier. The players have got to be on board with what he's trying to do, but essentially if they can be flexible and they can change things around when they need to, if things aren't going their way, they can mix things up. And we've spoken about the amount of kind of attacking threats they have on the pitch anyway. Something that Argyle needs to be very wary of, and almost sort of counteract that from mirror on if we need to throughout the game.
Yeah, lots to play for. The Coventry fans are in full voice today just by the away end here, so they're certainly looking forward to a good game, as are we. And it's time to hand over to your commentary team now to see how it's all going to go. So a reminder, if you haven't got your match passes now, very quickly is the time to do it. It's Charlie Price and Mark Edworthy on comms for you this afternoon. Hopefully they can commentate their way to an Argyle win. It's Argyle v Coventry City, and it's up next.